Hey guys, yesterday a man in Provincetown, Massachusetts, a little town in Cape Cod, was diving for lobsters and was swallowed by a 50-foot humpback whale. Uh, he describes it as frightening. He said he could feel the muscles in the skin of the whale around him. He says he was in there for about 20 to 30 seconds. His sister seen it happen and said she's seen the whale spit him out. Uh, the man said he was in there and he was scared. He was thinking about his wife and children. He thought he was going to die. And then he felt the whale swim up to the surface. He seen light. And then the whale just shook his head and just spit him out. And I'll put the link in the comments or in the description. Let's see what I can do. It's being reported by the local news stations up there in Massachusetts, as well as the USA Today newspaper has already posted the story. So this is a real story. And so I Googled and seen that has this ever happened before, and there's actually news reports of a man in 1891 named James Brady, I believe, a seaman named James Bartley. He was on the ship, the Star of the East, and fell overboard, and his crew looked for him, and they thought he was drowned, and they were actually whale hunting. They had caught a sperm whale that day, and the next day, like 24 hours after this guy was missing, they cut the whale open, and Seaman Bartley was alive and well, and just reminded me of the story of Jonah, so I'm going to read it to you. Interesting enough, I was an evangelical for 30 years, and all the Bible's translations I've read from Protestants, it's in the last verse in chapter 1. But in this Catholic Bible, I notice it's in the first verse of chapter 2. And before my evangelical friends freak out, just if you don't know this, this book, when it was written, it wasn't written chapter and verse. It wasn't until a theologian put the verses in the Vulgate, Catholic Vulgate, in 1555, and then Protestant Bible translator William Tyndale put the first verses in a Protestant New Testament 2 years later, 1557. So nothing's different. The Bible hasn't changed in thousands of years. We got the manuscripts to prove this, but the way men broke up the verses and the chapters, how they saw it would be fit, is the only thing that's changed. So I thought that was a little interesting. So let me just read this short passage. But the Lord sent a great fish to swallow Jonah, and he remained in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish. Out of my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From the womb of Sheol, I cried for help, and you heard my voice. Eventually, it says the whale spit him up, just like this man in Provincetown, I believe his name is Michael Packard, was swallowed up by a whale and spit out yesterday. And, Catholic theologians, as well as Protestant theologians, many of them will say this is just a parable, an analogy, that it really didn't happen, the story of Jonah. If you're a Catholic, the authorities in the Catholic Church says we're free to believe it's literal, and we're free to believe it's fiction. I happen to believe it literally happened. I mean, a humpback whale is 50 feet large, it's 50 feet in size, and this guy was swallowed up. There's blue whales that are 98 feet, 100 feet. So, we have a record of a guy in 1891 spending a night in the belly of a whale. So what's 3 nights? They say, again, the theologians say, well, it was just a parable analogy to foreshadow the reality, what was coming, that Jesus was going to spend 3 days dead and raised from the dead. And we all believe that miracle. If you don't, then you can't call yourself a Catholic. But so I thought that was interesting, and reminded me of biblical archaeology. The skeptics laugh at these Bible stories, but then these archaeologists uncover a lot of stuff to prove it's true. Like I remember reading about the Hittites. The Bible mentions this nation of Hittites. I think they were a Canaanite tribe, and for years scholars laughed. There's no such people as the Hittites, and biblical archaeology, I think in the late 1800s, discovered it. Didn't know what they discovered until the mid 20th century, and now it's just like a slam dunk. There's no question the Hittite nation was real, and the Bible again was proven. And actually, there's so much evidence of biblical truths that there's a whole field, a whole science called biblical archaeology, and these archaeologists just dig and discover stuff that's mentioned in the Bible. Unlike, the fake Book of Mormon, where it would, they talk about tribes that were in America a couple hundred years ago that there's no proof of. These are just fairy tales. But biblical archaeologists were uncovering truths from thousands of years ago. So thought that was interesting. I just wanted to share that before I even had my third cup of coffee. But I was planning on making a different video later in the day. Lord willing, I'll have another one out and I'll be shaved. So God bless and stay Catholic.